give thanks for everything.
For everything.
And say it is for the best.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
didn't
Testing
even
1,
have to
2,
say
3. Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
He said nothing bad ever happened to him.
Do we need a new book?
No, you need this book. We're going to do one more chapter, God willing. And then we're going to do some additional things. So now,
Good evening. How are you tonight?
some other latecomers coming in at appropriate time. Of course, the perfect time. You can't be better. Okay, everybody take a deep breath. Weathered out the impending storm. Everybody got to say their brachas, right? Okay, we're starting this class again. We're back, but I got to give you some commercials, okay? So we're going to be starting a new series of classes. I'm going to be teaching, the same places, but of course we're going to be shifting. It's always good to shift, right? This class, which is on Wednesday nights, beginning September, we're going to start this book here called Sefer Yetzirah. If you don't have a copy, get one. Okay? If you don't have a copy, then I'm going to make some cheesy photocopies for you, and you'll feel really ripped off. Yes.
Copy them after.
I'll leave them. You can copy them after. Okay?
Take a picture.
All right. So that's going to be on Wednesdays at 7 o'clock. Sefer Yetzirah. This is going to be like this is one of the oldest books in Judaism, a must-read for every person born of Abraham, because it was said to be written by Avraham Avinu. It's amazing how so many people skip it and miss out. Okay, at least it's good. You must be exposed. Great exposure, great text. It's going to be done in 2 ways, and we're starting that in September. I'm also going to be starting in September, but the classes that I give in Brit Shalom on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. We're going to be returning back to this, Sefer Tanya, but it's going to be the second volume of Tanya. The second part of Tanya, part 2, actually, and this is going to be the book that I'm going to be using. This is with the notes and commentary by Rabbi Miller.
Can we pay for it?
This is a new one. This is, if you don't have, copies will be provided for you, but not these copies, not this. You'll get those. You can order it online. You can take a picture of this and order it online. This is going to deal with Shar Yichud Ve'emunah, which means the gates of faith, right, and connection. That's how I translate it. Okay, one of the deepest stuff in Kabbalah. Okay.
And that's on Sundays, isn't it?
On Sundays at 11, and then you can always catch live on Facebook.
Yes,
On Shabbos at Beth Rambam, an hour before Mincha, we're going to be doing Keter Shem Tov. Also in Missouri City, we're going to be doing the same. We're going to be doing the studies of the founder of the Hasidic movement, Rabbi Yisrael ben Rabbi Eliezer, the Baal Shem Tov. So we're going to be doing some excerpts from this book here, called Keter or Keser Shem Tov, depending upon if you're Sephardi or Ashkenazi. Keter Shem Tov or Keser Shem Tov, which is basically some of the collection of the writings of the Baal Shem Tov. No, which one's not?
The one at Bet Rumba.
You'll be able to catch it. No, you'll be the same class will be of this at Missouri City. What's it called? CBE. Okay, off of Raoul Street. Okay. You can also tune in on Facebook. Okay. All right. Now let's begin. Okay. We're going to be doing a lot of things on the 10 Sefirot that we've been studying so far. In chapter 5, we studied the shattering of the vessels. Now, as we saw in the array, if you turn to page 39, the shattering of the vessels, we see in the picture there on page 39 how these vessels were set in a certain format before the breaking. In other words, God set certain... Here we have born something very interesting, as what we'll call each one of these 10 Sefirot. We'll call them elements of light, illuminations, garments, aspects to connect, fell to the dark side. Okay? Hence, we always know that in creation, Zu lumatzu asa Elokim. This one corresponding, this one God made. which means for every element of light, there's also the same element of darkness. For every single thing has its counterpart. And so just like that we have 10 sefirot of holiness, we'll do it like this. Look at this, it works. Amazing.
Are you allowed to erase it?
Yes, because there's no name of God. Okay, so as we know that the Ein Sof will flow down into here, okay? And then what happens is they all broke, but this is not the array. This is the array at the end, okay? But I'm just got to play it out for you, okay? For every single thing in holiness, there is also in the darkness. The shattered kings went into this kind of formation, okay? Which basically, as we're going to explore, are the elements of darkness, that every single thing has holy sparks in it. Even the complete darkness, it cannot exist without an element of light within it. You know, we're always trained, always taught, we always teach ourselves, you know, if something not good happens, you know, you got to try to see the good points about it. It's a very important thing that we do when we do that. It's very important because that's really what's going on here. The thing is that we have to train ourselves to do it on a higher level, because when we have higher contemplations, we affect higher rectifications, okay? When we apply our minds to these things, it's not just, oh, I'm going to make myself better and see the good in this thing. It's a much higher thing, tikkun, rectification, that we're doing, okay? Can you see if you can get the AC, someone to kick on the AC?
Yeah.
Thanks. So with every single one of the holy 10 sefirot, there's also 10 sefirot of darkness. Okay? And they're represented, interestingly enough, as the 10 nations we speak about all the time. 10 nations? Now, you probably have heard of the 7 nations of Canaan.
Oh.
The 7 Canaanite nations.
The
The 7 Canaanite nations, when Yeshua was told, go in and conquer the 7 Canaanite nations. So really what that was, in a much more deeper sense, was to go in and destroy the 7 bad character traits. We've gone over these sefirot in many ways. I've always divided it like this, because these are the mental ones, and these are the emotional ones. These, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, are represented by the 7, either they're holy things, like love and fear and glory. And what happens? As a result of the death of the kings, they fell into the dark side. And therefore what's expressed is what we'll call the exploitation or perversion of these lights, that they fall into dark acts that are performed, dark things, right? Love, fear, glory. Right? A person is only wanting to aggrandize himself. So obviously those energies go into the dark side, okay? And so, but still within each of those things, within all matter are considered these holy sparks that we have to suck out. Everything in Hasidic teaching is about sucking out the holy sparks. So when Yeshua went into the land, he had 7 nations to conquer, right? Those 7 nations are represented by the 7 evil character traits. They have to be fixed. We have to fix them inside ourselves. When we fix those 7 traits, actually, but here I'm going to give you a shortcut. It's an amazing shortcut, and it's going to be your next art project, okay? He says, when tempted by an evil trait, this is from Tzvat Rivash, also a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov. When tempted by an evil trait, heaven forbid, recite with all might, with fear and love of God, the names of the 6 nations, meaning the Canaanite, the Yebusite, the Hittite, right? You have to recite all of these 7 nations that are listed in this verse. I'm just looking for the verse here. We have it all the time, except for the Girgashi, but because usually It should be 7 Canaanite nations, but there's one missing. But he says when a person is overcome by temptation, and there's the stuck, right? And there's seemingly no way out, and any evil trait, anger, right? Or lust, what you should do, say the 7 nations of Canaan in these 7 sefirot, in the array of this. In other words, okay? Doesn't say the first 3. You know, these first 3 also represented by the nations, right? There's 3 nations when the children of Israel came into the land. When they were trying to come in, there were 3 nations we were told not to mess with. Moab, Ammon, Esav. Okay? Esav is represented by Keter on the dark side. Moab and Ammon. I really should be saying it over here. These 7, that's our job. We have to fix our midot. We have to fix our character traits. Okay? And if all else fails, in other words, the anger rage is coming, or whatever it is coming, you say this verse. Okay? This we can handle, these 3, until Mashiach. Mashiach is going to handle these. Okay? So in other words, there's some kind of tweaking in our thought processes that's going to be fixed in the times of Mashiach, which basically on the dark side, we call it Esav, Moab, and Ammon. Those 3 nations we don't fix. Okay? All right, let's go back a little bit. Okay? These kings died. Their parts are shattered. We're going to resurrect them. We resurrect them by awakening the holy sparks that are within them. Okay? We're gonna connect with the sparks. Through the connecting of the sparks, we end up elevating those things. And this is the point here. Comes out in a lot of things. Okay? I don't have to do with all of them, but within each one of these 10 is a completely different dynamic, that each one has a connection with each other. That's where every single thing is now completely different. When we understand that there's an internal connection between these energies. Okay? So that means within this sphera we call kindness or chesed, is all 10 sefirot. We're not going to deal with the first 3, but let's just look at it like that. In other words, this represents love. But of course, love sometimes cannot be always expressed as total love. Won't you agree? Right? Sometimes love has to have a different expression. Right? Sometimes what? You got to be hard. Avram Avinu, who was the love guru of the universe, brought down God loves us, and it was an unbelievable insight, and he changed the whole direction of all of humanity, telling people that there's a God of love, and he was preaching love, and people were sacrificing their children, and he was going, no, no, no. And then all of a sudden he was told to sacrifice his own child. And he was the love guru going on it his whole life. 137 years. And all of a sudden he's got to sacrifice his own son. He needed something. He needed something called gevura, power, within himself. Actually, he saw Yitzhak had that. Yitzhak had that discipline, so he was able to go ahead and take from Yitzhak that quality, learn from him, so to speak, incorporate that into himself in order to do the Akedah, in order to do the sacrifice. In other words, everything is interrelated and everything is blended. That's the bottom line. And that is where the tikkun, our tikkun, is. The tikkun is what? Connection. What I have, you need, and what you have, I need. My father-in-law looks at it like this, really great. It's great. He looks at it, let's say you have cucumbers. You have tomatoes. I got lettuce. Me, I got 100 pounds of lettuce. What am I going to do? I can't make a salad. Right? You got 100 pounds of tomatoes. You got 100 pounds of cucumbers. Very exciting. Not really. But if we get together, what could we make? A salad. The big salad. This is the big salad, okay? In other words, everything is intercombined. So then comes out this unique array, which works interdynamically, okay? And that's why those vessels broke, no connection, and why these vessels are the ultimate vehicle, the ultimate conduit for the infinite light to flow through. When it's in a row, no light. It's not going to flow. When it's like this, and everybody's getting and feeding and giving everybody else, and there's dynamic interaction, all of these spherot have dynamic interaction. We have dynamic interaction, so that's when things flow. Okay? And that's when it's able to hold itself and to be a vessel. When it's able to hold itself and be a vessel, it becomes what we call a partsuf, a face, literally translated, but really it means a whole set. Now you have to know the names of these partsufim, okay? You got to write this down, okay? Or you got to just put it to memory or watch the video, okay? Now, like I said, where's an eraser? Anybody see one? What?
It's like looking for the thing.
Take a piece of cloth.
Like they have.
You know, sometimes I go ADD when I see too many things around. Okay. There you go. So you see?
Yeah, that was good.
Okay. So like we have in our tradition, basically we have 4 worlds. Okay? 4 worlds, right? We'll have the world of Atzilut. I'll write it like this. Right? We have Bariah. I'm just doing this real simple, okay? Bariah, which means, creation. We have formation, making, okay? Nearness. Okay? I'm going to do this real simple, okay? So here what we have, okay? We're going to do it like this. This is called, I'm going to go right, Arich Anpin. Have you ever heard this before?
Yes.
Means long face. This is how it's handed down, okay? Atzilut, related to this. In terms of the energy, okay? And this is called, okay? We're going to call this Abba and Ima. I'll tell you where this relates to. Then we have Abba and Ima, which means what? Father, mother.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll have what's called Zeir Anpin. Zeir Anpin, which means small face. Right?
Yep.
And then we'll have Nukva. Nukva, which means feminine, or Malchut, kingship. Okay? Really, Arich Anpin relates to Keter. Okay? Abba and Ima, they have new faces. When they get resurrected, in the terms of the resurrection, they get a new name. Okay? This is called Ima, or mother. Zeir Anpin is all of these. Okay? And this is called Malchut. Okay? Or kingship. Okay? So we have Arich Anpin, Abba, which is really wisdom. Ima, which is really understanding, or Bina. And then you'll have all of these Sfirot, which is Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, are all considered to be the special 6. What do you call it? Team 6? What do you call it? Seal 6? Whatever?
What?
The Magnificent 6. Okay, and then you'll have Malchut, which is the 7th. Okay? There's a lot of information, but you have to know the names because they're going to flip and flash in all of the books, and then you're going to know exactly where on the map we're speaking about, what energy that we're talking about. Okay? Now, you have to know certain nicknames, and you have to understand where we are in terms of relationship to this, and this is really important to know. Just let me get to, I lost my place on the page here. Okay. We have another name that we call this. This is important for you to know. These are 6 sefirot, and they're all classified as what we call small face. The nickname for that is, where are we in the map? We're down here. Okay. This I'm gonna give you a designation, a name for this, for us, because everything's relative, because we're so down here, so low. We call this Ein Sof. Okay? The designation for this is the Or Ein Sof, which means infinite light. Just to give you a little tidbit. What? Question? Aha! Aha! No! Okay, we're so finite. Okay, we're so low, we're so below. Bottom of Malchut, When we, in relationship to us, in terms of consciousness, this is Ein Sof. In other words, you thought infinite light should be way up here. And this is to tell you something else. Yes, we're here to connect to the infinite light. Okay? And you have to know that infinity has, I hate to say this, layers. In other words, the bizarreness of this teaching is, whoa, you calling this Ein Sof? That means above this, there's another Ein Sof, and there's another Ein Sof, and there's another Ein Sof. And believe me, there's another Ein Sof. Okay? So in other words, there's layers of Ein Sof. There's layers of infinity. You think, okay. There's layers of infinity. It's a huge dynamic, okay? Just this thing. And this is all handed down to us. It's amazing. You'd figure, okay, let's just get to Ein Sof. But you got to know, in tradition, there's layers of Ein Sof above the Ein Sof. Okay? Boom. Okay. You got a question? He was asked now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
First time I'm hearing.
That's how it translates. Now, it's amazing that they have such names for these.
Because Ein Sof-
Abba, Ima, long face? What? Okay, listen, man. Okay, so it's an American Indian style. Like running deer. Okay, yeah.
But the picture that I saw years ago, it had Ein Sof and or Ein Sof, then Ein Sof, and then Ayin.
Okay, you have to show me that picture. Okay,
I don't know if I saw
but
that.
listen, the idea here is this is it now. And now I want to put this into something practical for you. Okay? Because before we do every mitzvah, we say a certain blessing, a certain prayer before. Those who have a Sephardic siddur, right? Or even some in the Ashkenaz siddur, I think there's 2 places where they have it. Before Sfirat HaOmer, which I should really tell you about where Sfirat HaOmer ties in this. And in Lulav. Lulav. The shaking of the Lulav that we're going to do is coming. Lulav and Esrog. Yeah. Lulav and Esrog ties into this perfectly. I just saw it in a Tikkun Zohar. Right? You have 3 myrtle branches. Right? Keter, Chesed, Gevur, Tiferet. You have 2 Hadassim, this one and this one. The 2, not Hadassim, the 2 willows. Now, Yesod, which is this, is the culmination of these 5. It's like an inclusive thing. The hand that holds those. And then Malchut is the Esrog. When you're holding that Lulav and Esrog, right? You are essentially, really the Lulav, you are essentially like putting all of these 7 sefirot together. What a dynamic. Would you ever have thought? You just take a Lulav Esrog, you shake it. No, man. It's a whole different dynamic that's going on. You're putting together all of these 7 sefirot in a cosmic realm. Your mind is effecting a cosmic rectification in the cosmos. The world and the cosmos. By putting just these... It's nuclear fission using household items, as I always like to say. God can do anything. He seems to be outwardly it's just like, oh, it's just a myrtle branch. No, it's Keter Chachma, and it's Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferet, right? This is Netzach, this is Hod, this is, right? So, the idea here is, every time before we do a mitzvah, we say a special prayer. That prayer is, L'shem yichud kudsha brichu ushchintei. That means what? For the sake of the unity of the Holy One, blessed be He, and His Shekhinah. We say it all the time. All the time. Problem is, people really don't think about it. L'shem yichud kudsha brichu ushchintei. Which, when you think about it, what does it mean? For the sake of the unity of the Holy One, blessed be He, and His Shekhinah. Shekhinah means, loosely they translate it as divine presence, right? Right? But wait a minute. If the Holy One, is blessed be He, is the oneness of the universe, what are you trying to connect? To His Shekhinah? Wait a minute. He's already connected. He is the Shekhinah. Why are you trying to connect the Holy One, blessed be He, and the Shekhinah? You're saying, what is the Shekhinah aren't they already connected? What's going on here, right? So the idea here is this, to put it in a mathematical formula for you. The Shem Yichud Kudsha Brichu, for the sake of the unity of the Yichud Kudsha Brichu, the Holy One, blessed be He, that's Zer Anpin. And His Shekhinah is Nukva, feminine. Okay? When I translate and when I understand Shekhinah, Shekhinah means the divine experience. Every single thing that we're about is about bringing the Shekhinah here, which is about the divine experience. That we want to experience the divine, not only for ourselves, all of humanity, all of the world should have a divine experience. So every time that we say, for the sake of the unity of the Holy One, blessed be He, that's Ein Sof, with His divine presence, that means creation, or Malchut. Okay? It means for all of humanity to have a divine experience. Everything is about that. Okay, so we talked a little bit about, right, the 3 columns. This is like the introduction to the resurrection. Now we can understand the resurrection a little bit. Let's read. Okay. The basic concept of the resurrection on page 45. The basic idea is that the bodies of people that have once died will one day be brought back to life. As we know, we have to believe this. This is one of the basic Jewish ideas, right? If a person doesn't believe this, then it's questionable, right, where they're going to be after they leave this world. Okay? Let's not get into where they're going, but it's very important that a person believes in the resurrection. Some synagogues or some denominations have had such a tough time with this that they have actually changed it in their own prayer books. And if you don't believe me, I got some places you can tour to. I'll discuss with you after class. Go walk in some places and read their prayer books and see what they have to say. Because they can't relate to it. They can't understand it, so therefore they don't put it in. But as basically what we understand is that the bodies will be brought back to life. The question is like, why? Why do we need it? If everything is just going to complete spirituality, complete connection to God, right? Why do we need it for, right? As a result of the sin of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, it was decreed that the body must go through this death and decomposition process. Then the soul re-enters it and expresses its once latent, built-up energy on the body and purifies it, enabling it to exist forever. You know, the soul originally in the Garden of Eden was meant to live forever. There was no question about it. The Ramchal brings down, as a result of the sin of Adam in the Garden of Eden, the soul was impeded in terms of its ability to make the body live forever. It got held back, like hands tied, okay? Until such a time where the soul has such pent-up energy, God willing, while it was alive in this lifetime. Only then. The world is not a physical gym, it is a spiritual gym, where you have to work on your flabby midos, okay? You have to build up your soul, that your soul at the right time will eventually be able to come and resurrect the body and enable the body to live forever. Why is this dynamic? Why is it necessary? You know, to cut to the chase, the soul just wants to be like God. It came from God's essence. It is godlike and wants to express itself as being godlike. Part of that expression, part of that ability that God gave the soul in order to be a co-partner in creation is to take something that really, a lifeless lump of clay, a body, and make it live forever. Would that be an awesome expression for a soul to be able to do? To exercise that? So really, that is its potential. A potential for the soul to come back in the body and make the body live forever. Okay, this is enumerated among the basic tenements of Judaism, and there are many sources for this written in the written law and oral law. Jewish tradition claims that there will be 2 resurrections. Did you know that? At the time of Mashiach, there'll be a resurrection. And also at the time of the final judgment. In other words, if Mashiach comes tomorrow, okay, then we say that he will resurrect the righteous. Just the righteous will be resurrected, okay? And then people will start living a long time. Talking about when someone dies at 100, they'll be crying like crazy at his funeral that he just started to live. He was just a baby. That's at 100 years old. Okay? So that's at Mashiach, right? At the time of the Mashiach, 40 years after the gathering of the exiles. Okay? So anyways, there will be a resurrection of the righteous. Okay? And those who are already around, I mean, people will die. Okay? But basically the righteous that have existed will come up again. Okay? And then there's number 2, at the final time of judgment in the end of days, both righteous and wicked arise. You've probably heard it before, right? The righteous get up and the wicked get up. The wicked get up like, see what you miss, senor? Back down with you. Okay? Like, right? So that they get to see what they have missed. Okay? Still, it's all mind-boggling. The Gemaras and the Talmud are very convoluted, specifically, I think, just so that you don't have a clear idea of it. Okay? So the question is, why doesn't the soul come back immediately after the body has gone through the decomposition, rectification? In other words, if it's a whole idea for the body just to be decomposed, why doesn't the soul come right back after? You know, you put a seed into the ground, the most amazing thing is the seed rots and dies. And then what happens? New life sprouts from a dead seed. It's an amazing miracle. It happens every single day. Yet, why doesn't that happen with a soul? Why is they're waiting for a certain time where it's all going to happen? Right? Another question, how does this tie in with what we learned in terms of the primordial kings? So the idea here is this, that I wrote in bold, not bold actually, all capitals. And all things and forces that exist in the world are holy sparks from the broken vessels. Okay, these sparks give them their life and existence. If they were to leave, then that level of physicality, that level of concealment would cease to exist. Once we take the sparks out, then all of that dark matter, so to speak, will disappear because it won't have a battery source to give it its life force. Okay? That's the name of the game. Extract the source. Extract the energy from the dark forces. Extract the light, okay, from the dark forces. Okay? Adam and Eve, the parallel to the shattering and the paradigm of our own personal shattering. Okay? In other words, whenever we mess up, what happens? When we do things by rote, the Baal Shem Tov brings down, you know what by rote means? Habitually. You know, when a person does a mitzvah, God forbid, habitually, like davening, God forbid such a thing would ever happen anywhere. Mm-hmm. Right? He drives the light, the sparks of light, deeper into the klipa. In other words, the holy energy that he's doing is going to the other side.
That's why you feel that way? Is that why you feel that way when, like, you see someone just kind of like, why do you just keep giving millions? What are you doing? You only do that. Why, is that why you feel like that, like, stop? like, not stop, but like, I'm sorry.
I don't understand your question because you referred to someone given millions.
No,
I
I
lost
mean-
you on the millions.
Okay, I mean, like, but they don't have it in them. They're doing it not out of like, they're just doing it out of like automatic. They're just,
Okay,
like,
that's
or
so that's
like you said,
those
they're
so they're very much addicted to the hypnotic state of the blue pill, going through motions.
going through the motions.
And the idea really is to raise consciousness. And the idea is to get the Torah out there, to raise levels of consciousness that people will be mindful. That mindfulness, they didn't make mindfulness. Mindfulness was from the Torah. Because you understand here, we're all in training here. We're all in training, and I'm giving you this whole dynamic thing here, all of these dynamics about that when you now approach something, you're going to approach it, you're going to elevate it. Most of the Melechet HaBirur is in the Machshava. What does that mean? The mind is the cause of the elevation of everything. It's all in the mind. And if you're not mindful, what happens? Yes, then it goes back into the la-di-da of everyday living. And we're not waking up. We're not waking up to the godliness that is all around us. The idea here is to wake up to the godliness that is all around us. Okay, I've only got a few more minutes, okay? So the idea really here is here. Adam, as we spoke about, was the volatile and yet necessary cosmic ingredient in this stew of creation. Right? What was the necessary ingredient? Free will. This free will being was sent down here with a mission to finish elevating those holy sparks of the dead primordial kings. All would have been well if he would have just waited until Shabbos to eat that fruit, the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. In other words, the 7 kings died. Each one of the days of creation that we have, day 1, day 2, day 3, God was fixing each one of those kings, so to speak, the concepts, making them available for people. Day 1 was King 1, day 2, King 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, finally almost to day 7, to the Shabbos. Day 6, this very necessary ingredient called Adam, free will, was introduced on the scene. That's where it's a make it or break it. 9th inning, right? Bases loaded, right? It would have been great if he would have waited till Shabbos to eat that fruit. Of course, what happened? He didn't. He didn't wait till Shabbos. You see that these 7 days of creation was a process of fixing all those shattered vessels. 1 day for each king. Everything was going great. All that was needed was the creation of free will, the exercise to exercise the choice, and then Shabbos would have come and everything would have been in its rectified state. Of course, what happened? No. Once he interceded, once he broke that, once he transgressed, then he made 2. Then not only did he not do his original mission was, we got to get the kings straight. We got to fix the kings. It's all about fixing the kings. It's almost done. Not only did he not do that, but it's brought down, right? That not only were those sparks of the kings not gathered, not finished, but also the Kabbalists brought down that Adam's spiritual body was shattered and dispersed all over the world. His head in Egypt. I don't know where the rest of his body parts were. But we went to Egypt basically to draw out, to suck out the sparks of the head of man. Okay? When we left Egypt, we brought out the head of Adam. Okay? So as a result of the sin of Adam, now mankind has 2 missions: to clean up and gather his own sparks. That's up until Mashiach. That's why after Mashiach there'll be 1 resurrection. Like 1 final Adam back to the original state. Mashiach, we got back. At Mount Sinai, we also got back. Right? We were free from angel of death, and we were free from servitude of nations. When Mashiach comes, it'll also be that. Okay? And 2, to clean up and gather the broken vessels of the kings, starting from the Mashiach until the final resurrection. So in other words, the reason why there's 2 resurrections is because of 2 messes that happened. 1, this is the shattering of the vessels, and 2, Adam. So the Mashiach comes is the fixing or rectification of Adam, and that's why there'll be a resurrection after that. But then the final resurrection at the end of days, which has to be in 231 years, right? has to be in 231 years, with the final resurrection, just before the big Shabbos, the 1,000 years of Shabbos. So then that will be the final resurrection. That's why we have to have 2 resurrections. Okay? So the idea of the biggest and most I already said that, was the atom. So here's how to do it. Okay, we're going to skip a little bit. Okay? Go all the way, got to go all the way to page 49. Because the idea really here is you can talk about it, but you have to actually be involved in it. And to be involved in it, and to be doing and to be rectifying, so you have to apply your mind to it. And to apply your mind to it, here we get a quote from this Baal Shem Tov here. The deepest, classic, and most powerful example of this resurrecting the dead, freeing the exiles, bringing the rectification to humanity in your little square inch of life, is brought down in the name of the Baal Shem Tov of blessed memory. And this is what he says. As is known, everything came about by the emanation from the Blessed Holy One. May his awareness increase to all. Through his attribute of love and fear, the spirit of Chesed and Gevurah. The love, however, is an exile, vested in the material known as what? Either women and food. When man considers that this love is a garment unto God, and God forbid, the person has separated God from the garment, then you have to fix it. In other words, the idea here is we get caught up. We get caught up in the physicality. And we think our pleasure comes from the chocolate or the coffee or whatever lust that we go after, or whatever it is, we think that it's coming from those things. That is the illusion that we get caught up with. That is where we result in the continuation of the flaw of existence by embedding or keeping the sparks within the klipot, the husks. The idea here is to extract it. And we have to extract it with this thought here. If I love this, whatever it is, chocolate, if you can eat chocolate. If I love this, which is but a love that fell with the breaking of the vessels and came from a drop and passes from the world. He's talking about a man who gets infatuated with a woman, more specifically. But if I love this X, whatever it is, how much more should I love God, blessed be he? In other words, what my Rebbe used to say is he would hand out candies to people. And he would hand out candies or chocolates to kid. And he would say this to try to elevate it. Just like this chocolate is sweet to my body, how much more so is Torah and mitzvahs sweet to my soul. So in other words, the idea here is that the elevation is to not only to get into the chocolate for the sake of the chocolate or the coffee or whatever it is, the lusts and the passions that are in the physical reality that we get caught up in. We have to peel off the mask and to know that it's coming from God. And if I still have trouble with it, with knowing that it comes from God deep within, at least I can make these declarations that can remind me of it. Okay? That God put in the coffee all of the elements that the coffee or the chocolate has. That makes it so sweet to me. But the higher idea, to elevate the holy sparks, which would be to use it for good when we eat these things. How much more so is Torah mitzvahs sweet to my soul? So when we do that, we're going to try to get a sense of when we do Torah and mitzvahs, it should feel like we're eating chocolate. Okay? And the whole idea is not to get caught up in the physical. Okay? In other words, to connect it with your mind to the root, the sphere of love. Because you know what? These things come from what we call the fallen loves. Whatever we fall in love with that's external, it's a fallen love. And whatever we're afraid from, if we have an external fear, that's called a fallen fear. We're afraid from, some people are afraid from crossing West Belford at night, on Friday nights. Okay? Fallen fear. So we have to elevate those. And it's a huge, and this is just like a tip of the iceberg. The idea here is, what we've covered so far is that There's been a shattering. There's been a lot of messes. The shattering of the vessel. Adam sinning in the Garden of Eden. We are here to elevate the sparks in it. And in order to that, it requires a training. And the training is to see through things. To see that this thing that I love is just from a fallen love. This thing that I fear is from a fallen fear. And to elevate it. When we elevate it, we extracted the sparks from it. And we don't need those things anymore. Those things don't need to be there anymore. Okay? And we've overcome it. We've pulled the batteries from it, so to speak. And therefore, we've elevated creation and humanity. Okay? Any questions?